All right, so Michael Oher, a.k.a. The Blind Side, is back in the news. Jeremy, you and I were talking about the facts of this case. You mind laying it out before we get into discussing it for us?
Yeah, of course. It seems like Michael Oher, according to the media reports yesterday, is suing the Toohey family, most notably from the movie, who were his now seeming conservators, not his adopted parents. He claims that he has just found out in recent months, as recently as February of 2023, that some of the paperwork that was signed in a time where he thought he was being legally adopted by the family, turns out it was more of a conservatorship, and that according to these claims, they took advantage and made a bunch of money off of the movie The Blind Side and other things from Michael Oher without him being able to capitalize the way that he probably should have at the beginning. And now we're sort of into the back and forth phase of that. It seems like he's been working for the last couple of years to try to get some of the money that he rightfully earned from his name, image, and likeness being used, ironically, for the movie The Blind Side. I really hate that we already know what the documentary about this case will be, which is called Blindsided.
That's gonna be terrible.
Great name.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to say it.
You're not sorry. And
You didn't have to say it.
You didn't have to say it at
You
all.
wanted to say it.
Yeah, well, nonetheless. This is a really sad story because obviously The Blind Side was the feel-good movie in a way that Sandra Bullock won awards for, and everybody talked about how, it was such a white savior movie. And now turns out that the NCAA agent in the movie that was questioning what the motives of the family were, well, it turns out that villain was actually correct.
Yeah, I was in Baltimore.
We think.
Well, yeah, Michael believes that villain.
Michael
was
believes
correct.
that.
Yeah, I was in Baltimore when Michael Oher got there. I think everybody knows right now that he always kind of hated the movie. He never really liked the depiction of him as kind of big, oafy, and helpless, and I don't think he agreed so much with the white savior thing. But
Like the family made him.
yeah,
Right.
the Toohey family was around often, and he did have them involved in his affairs. I remember doing charity events with Michael, and they would show up. So at that point, they were still in his life in some way, and it's a interesting story to look back on because I could see how this could happen. You're a young kid. I could understand the way that they're painting the picture. You're a young kid, and this family has, to the best of your knowledge, looked out for you up until this point. And they asked you to sign some papers because we're going to make you an official member of our family. Apparently, that's what Michael believes happened, and it was actually just taking over a conservatorship, which we all unfortunately know a lot more about conservatorships thanks to Britney Spears, but it's essentially having the control of an adult's life.
Dominique, what kind of a guy is Michael? Did you like him as a teammate, as a person?
Yeah. I mean, Michael was a great, he was low-key kind of soft-spoken. So all the hoopla around him was higher than you would normally have for an offensive lineman, and he never really liked it. I know lots of people say that they don't, but he seemed to not like, I don't know if it was that he didn't like the attention, but he didn't like the reason for the attention. So he was never much engaged in that stuff, but he was always incredibly cool, low-key guy who, sincerely really liked.
Did they seem close, the family? At the times you saw them.
That's hard. That's hard to say. They were around. So, I'm not going to pretend like Michael and I were the best of friends, but he was offensive lineman, so I didn't spend too much time with him. But, they would pop up. They'd be there. So he welcomed them to the facility from time to time in the games, and so they were around and in his life.
It's kind of fascinating because a lot of people are going to the worst place. Why now? He needs money. Why now? I'm certain because they took him into his house. He trusted them. Whatever papers he signed at the time, and maybe it wasn't the smartest thing to do at the time, but he signed those papers because he trusted that family. And that family apparently, we'll see how it plays out, according to Michael Oher, took advantage of him and his portrayal in The Blind Side, a movie that I loved. I think most people love that movie, right? But they made a lot of money off of that movie, and he didn't make a dime. Yeah. And so the timing on it doesn't matter to me. He came to a realization, oh, my God, this family made so much money off of my story, my name, my image, my likeness. The family said they didn't make that much. Yeah. They did, because now there are new reports, according to the New York Post, where that family bought 115 fast food joints, flew on private jets, and went on lavish trips with the movie profits. And so Michael's like, hey, where is mine? I want it, and I want it now. And so I'm tired. Like, people questioning the timing on this. No, he's entitled to the most amount of money in that equation. It's his name, and it's his story.
For what it's worth, the lawsuit alleges that it was 3 months after he turned 18 in 2004 that he claims he was tricked into signing a document that made the Tuohys his conservators, and that they ultimately earned more than $300 million through something that was originally obviously his story, and they've gone on to profit from the fact that they were the people associated with the Blind Side as well. He says he didn't, again, find out about this until February of 2023. It's worth noting that Michael Oher's attorney and Michael Lewis, the author of The Blind Side, declined to comment to us.
Is it a look at me, Louis, if I say I was in the movie The Blind Side and I had a wonderful time meeting Miss Sandra Bullock? I called her auntie, and I saw Michael Oher on the stage as well. Oh, it is. Never mind. Back to you, Dama.
No, it's a good story.
More?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in The Blind Side. Michael Oher was there as well. Like, I was in the hood. We was in Mechanicsville, saluting everybody apart. But, they told us to act like Sandra Bullock came into your hood for real and just talk to her any kind of way. At this point, we didn't know if it was going to be rated R or rated PG-13. Everything that came out of my mouth was a cuss word. You know what I mean? Speaking of the N-word, like, it was just all bad. So salute to Michael Oher, salute to my auntie Sandra Bullock. Look at me, Louis. I was in that movie.
She earned that Oscar.
It said that the movie itself made $309 million on a budget of $29 million. So a lot of money. And I think the New York Times article suggested that I think the Tuohys said that everyone made in the teens of thousands of dollars, that all the family got the same amount, and it was like 16 or something like that, $1,000 a piece.
They said we split it 5 ways.
Yeah.
Like, okay. It was millions of dollars you split 5 ways.
Is there any allegation here that the conservatorship also took a piece of his NFL earnings? It makes me wonder, because he had a pretty nice career, and he got like almost $30 million in guaranteed money. If he does need the money now, how did that happen? It makes me wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. Yeah, it's impossible for us to know any of these ulterior motives. We'll just accept the actual motive is that he feels like he learned now that he was wronged. That's the motive. I don't think he makes any allegations that they dipped into his NFL money in any way. I don't think those allegations in a piece. Do you see anything else, Jeremy?
It's not necessarily that part, but I just think it's worth sort of comparing this to the modern times in college football, where we're so worried about players being taken advantage of in the NIL world. And this is just an example of what was going on there, of people capitalizing off of a player, whether it was for business purposes or their own ultimate success. So you have the Tuohys who get to, build a brand and name recognition off of being involved in a story like Michael Oher's. Whether they took all of his money or not, they get to capitalize off that. Hugh Freeze was his high school coach. He ends up at Ole Miss as a result, and we've seen the college coaching career that Hugh Freeze has had as a result of really being in the right place at the right time with Michael Oher as well, and then getting to hitch onto Ed Orgeron's bandwagon at Ole Miss. So it's just it's a sad example of the way that college football in particular, or college basketball as well, but college athletes have been taken advantage of and kind of stepped on their success to be able to get others to where they need to be.
So many unanswered questions here. It's fascinating. And one of the questions I have is, if Michael Oher's allegations are correct, did the family's deceit reach the level of criminal activity? Is there anything that jeopardizes this family for any of their actions?
Yeah. Lock them up.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think your point, Jeremy, is an interesting one, because we look back at those days like we're in a better place now. We aren't. I mean,
Nope.
the players are still, while NIL is something that exists, the players are still working for free, and they still find opportunities to use these guys as stepping stones to better lives and careers. Most of the times it's the coaches. In many cases, it's, especially in basketball, you can find coaches from low ranks riding a guy up into having a career. It's a sad state that we're in, where these players aren't necessarily viewed as players, and I can't climb into, or can't go in a time machine and figure out what was the true motivation of the Tuohys, back when they brought Michael Oher in, but they certainly seem to have benefited from this. And maybe he benefited from it also, but they certainly seem to have benefited greatly from bringing him in the first place.
And at least publicly, they're still saying, we love Michael. They always have, no matter when there's been disputes or any sort of anything in the past. This just seems to be obviously the most public break in their relationship. But, I mean, we even talk about that, and you mentioned it's like bagmen in college football, the recruiting, and the irony is SJ Tui, so the son, Sean Jr., he's kind of the bagman at UCF. Like, he's involved in the NIL collectives now when you look at UCF and their football program. And this is someone who was literally like born and bred by being around as a little kid what was going on in the recruiting of Michael Oher, and now he's just watched that go over the years. And now what's he doing? He's overseeing NIL somewhere else. So you could argue for him, maybe that was an example of, I want to make sure these kids get paid right. He might have the right intentions there himself, and I'd like to, as a UCF guy, I'd like to believe that he does. But also, you see this example and you see this lawsuit that comes from Michael Oher, and it makes you question the entire system that we've already questioned, but to now have one of the only pure stories sort of ripped away from us, it was the obvious, like, of course this happened.
You assume that I think this case gets a lot of attention because they are not his biological parents, and there's obviously the racial component. Him going to Ole Miss is just a think piece writer's dream for writing the story of the black kid taken in by the white family, going to play for the Rebels of all teams. All that stuff is incredibly, like, interesting and offers a good story. But if you are not, there are kids who are in relationship with their parents who are also getting taken advantage of by their parents, and it's like the child
by their actual parents,
by their like biological parents. It's a child star like risk because you are not fully developed intellectually, and you're not fully exposed or mature professionally, and you have to trust people. And it's ridiculous because these young kids have such a rare, special talent that they are so valuable, and then the people flocking around sometimes get like dollar signs in their eyes and make the decisions that are not necessarily in the best interest of the kid, but are in the best interest of them.
And for the people saying, oh, he just wants money, it's a money grab. Yeah, and he deserves the money.
He don't need no money if he look as fly as Juju did in that movie. Look at him on the internet. So I get here this morning, nice and early, getting ready to prepare, and I walk past someone editing a video that is going to be released later, and I see my man Tony in this video, and he is giving takes. And I overheard, I'm not even going to explain it. I feel like we can play it. Let that thing ride, and I want you to listen to this great take from my man Tony.
Anthony Richardson. I'm very intrigued by Anthony Richardson. And we're doing this during the preseason, of course, getting you ready for August, getting you ready for football. There was one play in Anthony Richardson's game against the Bills where I said, you know what? Hey, the official tier is jury still out. Obviously, it's a rookie. Mostly all rookies are going to get the jury still out. But there was one play. Anthony Richardson, off his back foot, arm angle, like if he was throwing it from shortstop to first base. It was a pick. I'm just going to be straight up with it. It was a pick. Back foot, sidearm. If we can redirect that laser to a guy wearing that Colt blue, dynamic. Any guy that wears two gloves, jury's still out on him. And Teddy Bridgewater's not a starter, I'm still out on him too. Jury is. Daniel Jones, this is a tough one, man, because I want to say the jury's still out. I want to. I think he lives in the meh category. I think he's meh. I think he's gonna surprise people with his legs, but now the jig is up. Everybody knows he can run.
The meh tier.
So
Which one do you want to talk about first?
I mean, let's start at the end. So were you having a conversation with yourself? Because you contradicted yourself in the middle. You said the legs were going to surprise people.
So you know how it is, right? You're doing a segment. It's just you. You're filling in time. You got 12 minutes to kind of get everything you got to get in.
You're
right?
talking circles. Yeah.
So you just do. You know how it is. So what I was trying to say was, look, Danny Dimes has a great running ability that people were surprised by when he first got into the league. Mm-hmm. Now, everybody knows that he's going to run, so the jig is kind of up. He lives in a certain category of quarterback. But then I said, he's going to surprise you with his legs, meaning from like a defensive standpoint where he's going to run an RPO, something's going to happen.
You're making it worse. All right, so you have quarterback tiers. Give me all your tiers. What do your tiers represent? Because I heard meh as one of the categories.
So we have the Patrick Mahomes tier.
Okay.
We've got
who's in that.
Yeah.
You'll find out. Patrick Mahomes tier. We have the elite tier. We have good enough. We have the meh. We have bad, and then we have jury still up.
Who asked for these tiers?
The man.
I did.
It's football season, Billy. You think you're the only guy here that can create football content?
No, I'm just asking.
Please.
Like, no, people were probably wondering where they can get this. Where does this live?
later on in the week, they'll be able to get them. We're just putting the finishing touches on them.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I've been waiting for these tiers since the last football season
Thank you.
ended, so I'm anticipating.
But where can people find them? Is what I'm asking.
Right here, exactly where they're listening to this a couple days from now.
On Dan's face when he listens to this segment.
I like it. Tiers jokes. I got it.
That was a laser of an interception.
It was. I mean, we can all agree it was a laser.
So you were impressed by Anthony Richardson's very terrible throw.
Right.
I like that. Okay.
Right.
Cool. That
The
made
rare,
you excited.
impressive interception.
If
Right,
it could
but
get
Stu gets it.
redirected to a blue jersey, then it's fine.
A Colt blue jersey.
Exactly.
Very
Oh,
important.
not just any blue,
Yeah.
because the Bills also got
The
some
Also in
Giants.
blue, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of blue. All right. So who else? And I'm hearing you have a top 5 for us.
I do. So I've been locked in on preseason as Stu has. We were locked in this
Yes.
weekend on preseason football. So I've got a top 5 QBs that showed me something during the preseason.
Wow. Exciting.
And it's not going to be a list of who you think. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit deeper.
So
than
through
what we
one
think.
week, these are 5 quarterbacks that showed you something.
I got an OLI too.
Really?
About 8.
So are we gonna do that or just?
Yeah, you ready?
I would like
Is that gonna happen today? or
Today,
is it-
right
okay,
now.
Right now. Wow,
You ready?
okay.
Oh, wow.
I wrote them down, Tony, just so you know. Yeah.
Stu has guessed your list.
He's guessed my list. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
I actually really like that. He had a couple names there. The thing is, me and Stu have both been watching preseason, so he's got a lot of the names. So,
So wait, I have a question, just so we all understand what
Sure.
this list is. This is a list of the top 5 quarterbacks that showed you something.
during the preseason,
So bad quarterbacks.
I
right?
would
Like-
not say bad quarterbacks.
Well, quarterbacks that have played.
Jury's
so
still
far.
out, I
Some
think.
of them.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Some of them.
Well, so wait.
Jury's-
Some of the quarterbacks on this list have not played, but they've surprised you.
No. They've all played.
Got it.
But they've showed me something.
So
Got
the
it.
jury is
Right.
not out, or it is out?
Well, they haven't gotten to the tier yet of me deciding whether the jury is
So
in
none
or
of
out
these
on
are
it.
on your tier.
Deliberating. They're deliberating.
There is, let me see, one guy
Is in
who's
your
on the
tiers.
tier. Two guys on the tier.
Are they
Really?
the top 2 on your top 5?
No,
Is
Really?
Is that a sequestered jury, or are you allowed
it's
to
it's
speak
like an
with the
indictment
jurors?
jury. Yeah, it's a grand jury actually. You're
It's a
not
grand jury.
actually
Grand
allowed
So
to
they
talk to
showed
them.
you something in week 1, but they need to show you a little more, right?
Right.
Okay.
Some of these guys, 2 of the guys are starters in the NFL.
Who's getting indicted?
Tony strikes me as a guy. Have you guys seen Jury Duty on Amazon Prime?
Yeah.
Tony could be that guy, right?
There would be zero chance that I'd be
Tony
that guy.
could be that guy.
100%. But
I
in a
think
good
so.
way. Like the
Yeah,
toxic
it's not meant to be.
positivity.
It's not meant to be an insult at all.
That's
No, I
not
love that
true
guy.
from you.
That's 100%
first off.
true. This is a compliment.
That's not true
That
from
guy
you.
is very likable.
I love that guy.
That's
Everybody
great.
likes that guy.
Awesome. You're saying that I would be hoodwinked and fooled by people acting a fool inside of a courtroom.
Yep.
Oh,
which would
man,
never
but
happen.
You don't know that.
Right.
The
He would've-
first
my boy would've
second-
sniffed
Really
him out
convinced
The
instantly.
first second
Right.
the first second
I mean-
that the lawyer spills something, I'm like, okay, this
You're
is
going to
pretty
say
bad.
this is a reality
I
TV
think,
show?
I
Get
think,
out of here.
I think this is the time to tell him.
This whole thing has been a ruse.
You as an analyst? We've been playing the whole time. What? JK, LOL. All right.
OLI.
Those videos aren't airing.
Hold on.
This guy.
Wow.
Number 3, OLI. Bryce Young.
Really?
You know what he showed me? He could take a hit.
It's important.
True or not true? That was a question.
Yeah.
Very small guy. I need to see if he can take NFL hits. He took a couple hits. I like it.
Bryce
Where's the
Bryce
fanfare,
Young, wherever
Billy?
you are, come on home, brother. Come
Is
home
there supposed
now.
to be like a hey? Hey!
Nah, no hey. Ooh, I like that one.
Oh,
Okay.
there's a lion?
Number 2 OLI. John Walford. Stu,
Wow.
Keep an eye on that fellow.
keep an eye. You know why? The door is slightly open for John Walford starting in Tampa.
I agree.
Slightly open.
I agree.
Dominique? Kyle Trask, please.
Yeah.
Baker, please. John Walford? Spunky.
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 He is.
He likes his oatmeal lumpy.
Where?
What made somebody spunky, big bro?
Yeah. What's the difference? Is that similar to Moxie? Like,
Yeah.
Someone who has Moxie is also considered spunky.
Spunky, right.
Is that in the same category as Sassoon?
No, it's a different category.
no.
Totally different category.
Oh, okay.
Number 1 OLI. of the QB that showed me something.
Hold on.
Okay.
What was the something that he showed you? Because Bryce Young showed you
He can
that
take a hit. Right.
take a
Was
hit.
there a something?
John Wofford
or
told
he
me
just showed you something.
He showed me something where the door is open now in Tampa Bay that he can possibly be the starting
So
quarterback.
this is
Showed him
this
he's got
is
spunkiness.
He sees the door is open.
Exactly.
This is
He sees
not just-
opportunity.
Yes.
This feels like a vote of confidence for John Wofford, but also a shot at Baker and Trask too, right? It's kind of like
double-edged sword. You know how it is.
all right,
It's a
cool.
cutthroat game.
Now
Monkey
Baker was
bars.
good in that game. He was 8-9, right? Baker
Yeah,
was good.
but please.
Right.
We've already seen that.
Okay.
Maybe
Fair.
he's on the list. We don't know.
No, Baker's on the list.
Oh, well.
we need the
not
top
what
5
Taylor is.
QBs that showed you nothing.
That's
follow
a different
this
list.
up.
I can put that together. All right, number 1 on my OLI, almost cracked the top 5. Dorian Thompson-Robinson. of
Oh, yeah,
DTR.
Yeah, he had him on the list.
Hyphenating it.
Cleveland. DTR is a problem. Get that guy in some open space. Show me something. Obviously, they have a guy that they're heavily invested in, so it's going to be hard for him to make it there.
That's all right.
But another team could take a look and say, hey, DTR.
Little
Not bad.
he showed you a little athleticism. That's the something.
Show me
Open
some juice.
space. Yeah.
Show me some
Ooh,
juice.
show some juice.
Wow.
He did show me some juice.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Number 5, the aforementioned Anthony Richardson. It was that laser interception. That's all it was. Like, I'm basing everything just off the fact that he has the arm talent to stand back foot throw, sidearm release. Again, interception. I want to make that very, very clear. It was an interception, but it was a great pass to an opposing team.
For what it's worth, that's all his college film looked like too.
Exactly.
Yes,
and that's why he was a top
And it
5
showed
pick.
the NFL something, so
When
I
he
think
actually
Tony's
played.
spot on here.
Yes, when
But,
he played.
yeah, but at this level, aren't you hoping that he like grows in judgment?
he'll
to
get there.
Not make that.
By the
pass?
way,
That's something.
bad news, everybody throws picks.
I couldn't agree with
Some
you more,
picks
Tony.
are really bad,
But
and
his-
some picks are really
It's a
nice.
good-
But his picks look good.
Exactly.
Yes. I get it.
I understand where you're coming from, but I would argue that was a really bad pick. Like it's an RPO. You can't throw RPOs late, and
Especially
you
off your back foot.
Back foot dominate.
It's
It
yeah.
was like a laser, though.
It
Slinged
was.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
man. It was
Sometimes
laser.
interceptions are on the receiver, right? Not on the
That one
quarterback.
definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't.
I was trying to help you.
No,
Tony.
because if you see the play, he just throws it right to the corner.
Yeah.
There's nobody there. But again, redirecting the laser
Gotta,
to somebody in Colt Blue or Colt White,
Right.
yeah.
it's there.
Okay.
Number 4, the Chargers have another QB who is very good. Easton Stick.
Who?
Showed me something.
Wow.
I want you to go back to the play.
Great name.
Yeah, Easton Stick, and he
Sounds like a
stuck it
baseball
in.
bat.
Thank you. Thank you. You're my brother.
Thank you. I'm there for you, Roy.
There was a play where Easton Stick threw a touchdown to Quentin Johnston, sandwiched it between the corner and the safety in a tight, super tight window, and was able to put it right through Easton Stick.
What quarter was this in?
This was in, I want to say, the 3rd, maybe?
Oh, top tier. Gotcha.
Sticking it.
Thank you. Number 3, a guy that I don't know if anybody here has heard of or mentioned at all.
Now I'm excited.
Aiden O'Connell from the Raiders.
Wrote it
Did you
down.
guys see Aiden O'Connell?
Oh, yep, you got it. there.
Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah, turning some heads.
Straight out of
Turning
Ireland.
some heads.
They have something in Aiden O'Connell. If Jimmy Garoppolo, unless Brady comes back, and that's a different story.
Which he is.
Which he is.
Right.
He's always lurking around every corner. But Jimmy Garoppolo, we know what he is. Give the young kid a little run.
Do you take into account that they're doing this against not starters? Like they're looking good against players that probably will not be playing.
Semantics. I
That
love
is
this
a
list.
semantics
It's his
argument.
list.
I'm
Billy.
just asking
Yeah,
a question
it's
if that's
his
part
list,
of it. Because like remember last
You can only
offseason-
play with who you're in the field with.
Yeah, but remember
You want me
last
to play against Jalen Ramsey? Sorry, he's on the sideline. I can't play against him.
I'm just. Do you don't have to get defensive?
I'm not. I'm just
asking.
explaining. I'm excited.
Remember last season we thought Skylar Thompson was great after the preseason.
MVP of the preseason.
Exactly right. And then
And he
what
showed
happened?
you. And he went to Buffalo
to
and almost beat the
Buffalo
Bills in the playoffs. Come on, what are we
He
doing?
did
With
not.
Bernie Parmalee.
Come on, man.
That's exactly
You weren't
right.
watching.
Who
I
needs me?
I realize
You're
you
gonna
weren't
go to
watching.
Buffalo with Bernie Parmalee.
Number 2,
Hurry up.
I know, we're
Hurry,
good.
hurry up.
Nathan Rourke from Jacksonville.
One play.
One play. It's all
One
you need.
play.
Get out of a sack and then throw a dime 35 yards on the field for a touchdown.
With
You got
Cowboys
my vote.
on your back.
Come on.
Something was shown.
He got them made the Stallion needs because I was like, dang.
Drop down.
Number 1.
Number 1. Stu talked about him yesterday. We thought he was going to own car dealerships in Georgia for the rest of his life. But let me tell you something.
No way.
With Matthew Stafford out of the picture in the next couple years, the Rams have a quarterback Stetson Bennett the fourth, throwing into tight windows, throwing touchdowns, getting around, dodging people, throwing touchdowns. That's it. Stetson Bennett.
We're joined by the fabulous Morgan from Australia, super fan of the show, on loan from the Greg Cody Show today to the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Am I right, Morgan?
That's right. I'm a gun for hire.
Yes, you are. And the last time I saw you, you were in a dimly lit swimming pool in Queensland. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I've decided that I would once again be in a dimly lit area. Just
Hold on. I'm sorry, Morgan. Morgan, I'm sorry to cut you off. It feels like you're interrogating her, like you're trying to trap her. Is that correct? Like, we want to have a good time with
Retracing
Morgan.
her
last
steps.
time we
I just
saw
wanted
you.
confirmation.
Were you in a dimly lit hot tub?
Is that correct,
Were
Morgan?
there rubber duckies?
It is correct.
I wasn't expecting the Spanish Inquisition from you, Greg. But yeah, I'll take it.
Okay. We won't even get into how fast wombats run. That's a
Greg, we're not doing this again.
No,
please.
we are not doing that.
Why?
Again.
Why not? That sounds fun.
Already did
Yeah,
it.
sounds like an interesting conversation.
How did this come about, if I may ask? Because Morgan was trying to become the World Cup correspondent for the main show.
Yeah.
And then somehow Morgan became your World Cup correspondent. It seems like you swooped in and you kind of stole
Scooped
Morgan.
in, perhaps. He scooped in.
Scoops Cody.
Scooped. That's correct. I cannot explain why the Le Batard Show did not reach out to Morgan, but when they did not, I was, she's a fabulous correspondent and has done a great job covering the World Cup for us. And the fact that Australia is now this close to a championship is all the better.
Yeah, could you preview the game for us, Morgan?
Right, so we've never been closer. Greg's right in that. He's wrong about the Wombats, but he's correct in that. So tomorrow night, Australia take on the motherland in England. I would say that we're ranked outsiders, but that hasn't stopped us so far. I think we probably would have been outsiders against France, maybe favourites against Denmark, but we've been playing an exciting brand of football. We've had our best player still not perform to her best, and we've been able to survive and advance to this point. So fingers crossed we can. That's all you have to do, apparently. So fingers crossed we can get through tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a really tough game. They probably have us beaten across the park, but that doesn't seem to really matter because, as we've seen, lesser sides can win in the World Cup.
I said this yesterday. Once the United States was bounced out, that our allegiances should change to Australia. Great story, home team, and if you're not rooting for Australia, you're not American. Period. End of discussion. Greg, have you told Morgan that you think England's going to win this game?
She knows England's the favorite. I mean, and England's a good story too. You could make
terrible story, Greg.
Okay, you can
Terrible
make
story.
you can
England's
make
a good story.
You
Are
could-
you sure about that, Greg? You read a history
Speaking of
book?
the
England is
N-word,
almost
speaking of
never
the
a
I
good
don't
story.
mean I don't mean historically. I mean in the football context. England is arguably the best women's team that hasn't won a World Cup. I'll be happy with whomever wins. I think Australia is a great story as well. And one of the things
No, you got to pick a side, Greg.
Yeah,
This
man,
whole
this is
fence
sports.
sitting thing, pick a
Okay,
side.
well,
England or Australia?
Okay. But one thing
Not gonna do it.
No, I'm not going to do it. Morgan, one thing that interests me is that Australia was never a country associated with being a soccer-loving nation, right? It's rugby. It's Australian rules football. And now, how much of an inroad has soccer made? How consumed with this sport is the country because of the Women's World Cup?
Yeah, you're absolutely right in saying that we don't really like soccer here, or football as they like to call it. We don't call it that. But the Matildas have absolutely galvanized our nation. The ratings are through the roof. They have outrated every AFL and NRL grand final for decades. The support they're receiving currently is unmatched. And it's really, really exciting to see women's sport front page news and getting the recognition it deserves. Hopefully with that recognition comes funding that our grassroots football desperately needs, because we can't compete on the world stage if we're not funding our programs. So how we've being able to achieve what we have this World Cup is pretty impressive.
Favorite member of the Matildas and also favorite member of the Le Batard Show family. And I will remind you, Greg Cody picked England.
Oh, it's not Greg Cody. It's not even my favorite member of the Cody family.
Wow.
That's
Michael.
hurtful.
Yeah. That's Greg's favorite.
Yeah. I understand that changes as the days go on. So my favorite Matilda would probably be Sam Kerr, but that's a popular response, bit of a chic response.
Right.
Maybe I like Hayley Razzo. I'm a big fan of a hair bow. And so I like Hayley Razzo. Mackenzie Arnold, the goalkeeper, who took a penalty, missed it, and then saved 2 in a row. Absolute baller. So maybe I like her too. And my favorite member of the Le Batard universe is obviously Roy.
Thank you, Morgan.
Yep.
Nice,
Thank
very
you.
nice.
Wow.
I appreciate you.
You know something that I learned recently, and
What's
I
that,
was
Billy?
super embarrassed to learn it. Speaking of the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand, so New Zealand obviously go by the Kiwis, correct? And I just recently learned the Kiwi's a bird. I was always thinking it was the kiwi, the fruit, that they went after, and I was very embarrassed to say that, and I don't know why I'm not saying this for everyone to hear how dumb I am.
Man, I appreciate you sharing that, Billy. It's a great story.
We wanna
But yeah,
support
they are a bird.
You're too nice, Morgan. It's okay. Just say, not great story, terrible story.
The correct response was $12, Billy.
$12. Oh,
Yeah,
my
you
gosh.
gotta find-
Morgan, why do people in Australia hate New Zealand?
Well, because everyone hates their neighbor.
Yep.
Yeah, my neighbor plays that music loud as hell. I feel you. Salute to Australia.
Bad music, by the way. I assume they're not paying that new juju because if you pay that, you can play that loud anywhere.
Damn right.
Everyone would appreciate it.
Zagaki.
Zagaki.
So I was expecting you to pick me as your favorite person, Morgan, because I wanted to hear you say my name again. And I wonder, are American accents at all useful anywhere in the world? Because I feel like Americans love accents. Like we enjoy another person's
Look,
accent.
I am a big fan of yours, Dominique. I'm a big fan of your podcast. I'm a big fan of Charlie also. So shout out to Charlie while we're at it.
Charlie.
So yeah, big fan of your podcast. And I will say your name as many times as required to keep this interview going.
Is there,
Dominique.
is there any like value to an American accent in Australia, or do you guys just
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I didn't
No.
think so. There's nowhere we can go. No one likes our accent. We have trash accents.
It's okay. You like your own accent. You like the sound of your own voices over there.
That's true. We're the most powerful nation in the world.
I think they would love me in Melbourne.
Well done.
Everyone loves you, Juju.
They
That
love
doesn't
you
count.
everywhere, Juju.
Thank you, Morgan.
All right.
So, Greg, are you sending her to the rest of these games, or what's going on? Paying for lodging? What are you doing to contribute to Morgan's World Cup experience? Because it seems like Morgan's just doing this for free for you.
I believe an unnamed sponsor of my shows is paying some of the freight.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
and
Morgan?
You're here to
the thing
announce
is
that you're
just
going to
mainly
cover the
ticket
rest.
costs.
That would suggest you are covering the
Yeah,
rest.
you will be
Yes.
announcing today you're covering the rest of that cost, Greg? Is that
The freight.
correct?
Yeah.
Did I hear
The
that
freight,
wrong?
yeah.
With
You know,
Greg Cody.
I'm going to have to get with my podcast staff on that one and
Right.
figure things out. I
We
don't know,
announced it. It's just been announced. You're welcome, Morgan.
What
Greg
you're
Cody's got
providing
it
is a
covered.
platform, Greg. That's what you're providing, right? In your mind?
I like
yeah.
to think so.
Well, that doesn't pay for lodging, exactly.
No, no.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, you can
Doesn't pay for
I
lodging, bruv.
appreciate the sentiment. The sentiment is nice, Greg. But if you did want to contribute, I happily accept any assistance. Seems though I have no accommodation in Sydney tomorrow and no ticket to the final due to a scammer. So you can go to my Twitter, Morgan for Australia. There's a GoFundMe there.
Wait, what happened? You were scammed out of tickets to tomorrow's game?
Somebody scammed me out of my ticket for the semi-final, so I had to sell my final ticket. So I have a ticket to tomorrow night.
Sorry
Oh.
about that.
Justice
Yeah,
for Morgan.
it had Stugotz written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was the scam? You just bought a ticket that wasn't a real ticket?
Yeah,
It's probably one
the
of those
resale market
blokes.
is terrible.
Probably one of those blokes from England, right, bruv?
Nailed
Yeah,
it.
sound like one of those.
Crushed it.
One of them.
Outstanding accent. I'm sorry, Morgan, to be laughing at Juju's accent while we talk about your pain.
No, it's all right. I understand. Thank you, Juju. I appreciate you.
I mean, it is an island of criminals, so I mean, it's
Yeah.
respect to have
Someone had to say
Mel
it, I
Morgan's
guess.
GoFundMe. Get that ticket back to Morgan ASAP.
penal colony is
Yeah.
what it is. I mean, but whatever. I got
Help me
500
out.
on it, Morgan. I got 500 on it.
Where can we follow you online? Where can we go to your? What are your social handles, Morgan?
At Morgan from Oz on Twitter, Instagram. I don't know how to TikTok, but I'm trying to do that. Yeah, you can find me anywhere. The GoFundMe will be listed on my Twitter page. And any funds that I receive that is on top of what I need will go to Ron McGill's substantive endowment.
Wow, that's
Excellent.
very nice.
Good
Greg, you going to
cause.
take care of this? Or what?
I'm going to take care of it. And by the way, that's Morgan from AUS.
That's right, AUS.
Right.
All right, thank you, Morgan. You've been a joy. Hopefully, Greg Cody comes up off some of them bucks. I'll put something on it. We don't want you to get scammed, even though you live in a penal colony. You don't deserve to be taken advantage of.
So this is what happens when you live in a penal colony. Everyone's a criminal.
All right, see you, Morgan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique. It was a pleasure.
Oh, man, it's great. It's great. All right, Greg, so do you feel at all guilty for taking advantage of this wonderful young lady who's offering you free content all the time?
I didn't know I was taking advantage of her, but, you know.
Well, now that you know, what are we going to do
Right.
about
Well,
this?
this is the first I'm hearing about her being scammed and needing a ticket. So, you know, it's
How much are these tickets?
Top of your priority list.
way too much for my modest podcast to absorb. I'll tell you that.
They got her doing an interview from the streets of Australia. Like, she was outside.
In
Let's
the
get
middle
a
of the night,
microphone.
yeah.
Let's
Middle
get
of the
a
night.
ring light or something.
Have you ever seen all the animals out there in Australia? Like, she's risking her life.
Oh,
just
wombats
talking to
out
us.
there.
Exactly right.
Got some wild
Spiders and shit.
Is it animals? Was it animals?
Dingoes running wild. Wombats.
poisonous snakes, isn't it? Like the
Platypus?
Yeah, they got lots of platypuses.
Damn right.
Platypi?
Not to mention kangaroos.
I think it's pussies. I know octopus is octopuses, even though everyone says octopi. I think I think
a
it's
dog with a bone
pussies,
on this
not
one.
Pies, but I don't know. Let that sit.
Speaking of the N-word,
These tickets are expensive, man.
Oh yeah, it's a big game. I heard.
But yeah, but what denomination is it being represented in?
The tickets?
Yeah, like when you're looking.
I think it's Stugotz.
No, it's
Platypuses.
$250 per
Nailed it. Told you, y'all out here adding these eyes when you don't need eyes.
$250 isn't that much for a final ticket.
No,
like
it
a
really
championship ticket.
No.
Greg's got that.
Yeah, we got it. We'll cover you, Morgan.
Woo!
Unless you get enough money through your GoFundMe. And then my
In
offer
which case
is
we'll back
off
out
the
cheaply.
board. Off the board.
kick, save, and abuse.
That's what you're hoping, huh?
I really am. Go to her GoFundMe page so I don't have to pay for her final World Cup ticket.
Oh man,
You trying to get World Cup coverage for a bag of donuts. That a bitch.
Exactly.
not even a bag of donuts.
That's Morgan from AUS.